Hacky sack. Oh, this man's got fucking skills. You fucking you are fast to it.
Fast tour?
Fast to it.
Oh, I thought you were talking like Hawk tour.
No. We don't
Actually,
subscribe to the trends.
have you seen the guys who made the podcast, Talking Tour?
No way, really?
It's really funny. Yeah,
Is it?
yeah. It's like, so it's these guys, like, they've just done this, like, satirical, because she started her podcast, and then these other guys who created a podcast talking about that podcast, and they debrief, every episode they debrief her episodes.
It's kind of genius for them.
It is pretty genius, because it's getting a lot of attention.
Mm.
Yeah, there was a lot of, like, memes going around for a little bit of, like, you know, guys doing, like, viewing parties of the thing, and
Really?
yeah.
Huh.
It's funny. It's funny how she's been able to stay relevant. I reckon. Like, she monetized the 15 minutes of fame very, very well.
She did. I thought she was going to drop off because there was her and the Olympian. And I feel like the Olympian now.
Oh, Raygun.
Right. Yeah. I feel like
Yeah,
she's
yeah.
dropped off.
Yeah. Well, I mean, she's still getting like some brand deals and other things come up and stuff like that. But I feel like I suppose it was tough though, because her one was like almost like making fun of negative, so it probably impacted her more. So, like, she probably is taking it a little bit more negatively than the other side, which was, who is this girl? We need to find. Like, there was almost this like hunt for ages trying to find her. Do you reckon though, like everyone talked about like 15 minutes of fame, right? Do you feel like now, like, there's people that like are just really, because like Jake Paul connected with her really quickly to, I suppose, help her monetize and stay relevant.
I think
kind of thing.
that was a play by him as well though.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, he's brought on a great content creator for his business, but I do think that, I don't know if she wouldn't have been able to do that without someone like that.
Yeah, I think it's a great move, but I think it's also opened up a lot more people that go, oh, like, it's so easy now. Like, I've just got to go and make some content, get online, and like all this like podcast and organizing all these deals now. Like, look how easy and quick she did it. I think it's really interesting that it's opened up that perspective of being a creator is so easy, and that, you know, there's not a lot of work to it. It's just jump in front of the camera.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose,
which I'm not saying is true. I'm just saying I think it has sort of built that perspective.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a stigma, like, you know, that sort of life is easy. I mean, there was, we were talking about it a little bit earlier, but there was a girl at the moment who's sort of in the media getting, like, I think she might have been like the TikTok awards, and they were asking them, like, you know, is being an influencer a tough job? And there's a few people who were sort of saying it's easy. She came on and she was like, yeah, it's a really tough job. At 9 to 5, you get to go home, you get to finish. I'm working 24/7. I'm never off. Like, Tori, just people don't understand how hard it is, kind of thing. Which I don't know. I think I agree and disagree. What do you reckon about that?
Why? I disagree. I think it is difficult. Like, so I agree with her, but I disagree, I think, with you in the sense of, like, I think it is really difficult. Like, it takes an element of time and effort to do content creation, and you can increase your growth by the amount of input that you do, right? Like, we've seen it with Logan Forsythe. Now Hormozy's been talking about it. Just increase the amount of times you post, or just increase the amount of things that you do, or different platforms. Just more volume will give you more data, which will allow you to make better decisions, which will hopefully should allow you to grow quicker. So if you just do more sweat in the early days, you'll have more data and you can grow quicker. So I think there's an element to that, right? So, yes, you can work 24/7 and go gung-ho and potentially see faster growth if you're doing all the right things. Or you can just extend that period. Instead of doing it in 3 months, you might do it in 9 months. It's just going to take you longer. So, but to your point, I think it is hard, but it's the hard that you want to make it. Do you want to grow ridiculously fast? Do you want to put in those hours? Is that what you actually want? Or are you chasing something that you think you want?
Yeah, I just think for any business owner, like, you've chosen to own and run a business, and you also have all the responsibility of how you're running that. So I just think, like, if you create the parameters for the business that you're going to be running it, that your phone's always going to be on, and you're going to work when you're at home and all that sort of stuff, like, that's on you. That's my thing, is like, I don't like, you've created that situation. And as well, I think you've got to be a little bit like, I don't know if grateful would be the right word, but maybe appreciative that, like, the work that we get to do isn't as hard as someone that's doing mixing concrete all day.
Yeah.
Like, we get to do something yes, like everything, if you do it for long enough and you want to do it really well, is like hard, but like you said, you get to choose your hard. That, I think that's my thing. I just think, like, saying that, like, influencing is a tough job when a lot of it is getting to, like, do fun experiences and come up with skits, and, like, yeah, just because you get to take that home with you, like, again, there's no risk to your, like, physical health that on like you do on, like, a job site or in the mines or something. Like, I don't know, that's just that's where I sort of sit with it. I just think that, I don't know, if you choose to work all those hours and you want to make it work because that's what you love doing, awesome. But don't complain about how hard it is.
I think the right word is challenging. It's challenging, right? Because, yeah, you get into influencing and you make your success in the early days and just making content and what you know and whatever, right? And then people start throwing money your way to start making content. And yet it's easy. It's no different to what you've been doing before, except now you're just getting paid more to do it. But then it gets challenging in regards to, you start earning more than your, like, outside of the norm, right? So you've got to set up a business. You don't know how to go about it. You've got to learn quickly. That's challenging. All of a sudden you've got to pay huge amounts in tax because you weren't prepared. So that becomes challenging. You're having to you have to structure brand deals and know how to navigate contracts, and it's something you've probably never done. So it's challenging. But I think you're right. To your point, it's not hard. Like, it's not hard work that most of the population have to go through, like physically demanding hard work. It's challenging. Don't get me wrong. Not to discredit what they do, because like any new journey, any new venture or anything like that, there is always their challenges, but that's where you see your growth. But I think you're right. It is challenging. It's not hard.
Yeah, I don't mind. I like that way of putting it. I definitely don't want to say that, like, there aren't parts where it is challenging. I think the part that gets me is, like, complaining about it.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I'm not going to, like, what we do might seem easy to some people, but yeah, there is a lot of work behind the scenes to do those sort of things. I understand that, she's not just fluffing around with the hours that she's saying that she puts in. My thing is purely, yeah, like, I don't know, you've chosen that. So I just think, for, like, if you're going to go into business, you got to understand, like, first few years, you are going to be working silly hours if you want to get to a stage that you want to get to. But that just is what it is.
That's it. That's the like, there are many hats to wear in a business. And unless you've got people to give the hats, you're going to wear them. I tell you what, like, in a normal day, there is not enough time to wear all the hats. If you're at capacity of what you're trying to do, a lot of the time there's not.
No, and you always find that out. I feel like you find that out every plateau over and over again. There's a new thing that you were doing that was something that was like a normal thing that you did every single week, and you hit a point where you go, I've got no more hours to give. Someone has to take this over. Someone has to take this over if I'm to continue to like go to the next thing that needs my attention.
Yeah.
But that's part of the process. I mean, that's just, I think it just goes to this whole thing of like, if you don't love that part of it, if you don't love running a business and doing all those other things behind the scenes of maybe the actual thing you love doing, why are you doing it?
And that's why I like that topic of the entrepreneur. Like, it is more of the gain with a lot less of the stress and risk. Just working inside someone else's business, taking a pay cut, creating an incentive structure that is a win-win-win for everyone.
There's a lot of opportunities now and I would say arguably you can earn a lot. The average content creator would earn a lot more money doing this, but being a content creator within one specific business, not trying to build up to doing lots of different brand deals, which like obviously if you're massive, the brand deals can be a huge payoff kind of thing. But you've got to grind for ages of like not getting paid doing a lot of stuff or getting paid bugger all, getting paid, maybe just getting lunch or dinner comped for you to go and like create a video for them, which again, if that's what you want to do, go for it. But I do think like to the entrepreneur, if you were to go and find a business, you can be a content creator for them and bring that skill into the table, you have very, very consistent income and, you'll be able to make a good amount of money. Yeah.
And if you do it in a way too, where you don't structure yourself where you're trapped inside the business for too long, you can also like track and measure your success and your growth and then leverage that for another opportunity. And obviously don't leave the last business high and dry. Have a succession plan, that sort of stuff. So, you're either training as an assistant so they can take over your role and then you can leverage into the next role and say, hey, look what I've done in my previous company. I'm looking for a 12-month contract. And I'll be honest with you, I don't really want to be there after the next 12 months. But 6 months into my journey, I will start succession planning.
Well, or even as well, being able to go like, if I'm able to bring this much attention and bring this many sales in through what I'm doing, how do I get rewarded above, what I'm getting paid normally? Like,
yeah,
I think, if you can make that work, that can be very, very lucrative as well.
Exactly. Because I know the thing though, like a lot of creatives go, I want diversity in what I do. I don't want to be doing the same thing day in, day out. I get it. Trust me, I get it. That's exactly the reason I've structured our business the way I have, is so I can step into different businesses all the time and fuel that creativity and that need for different situations all the time. But unless you're wanting to build something like that, or have a churn and burn model of projects, which is what I had in the beginning under my previous structure, you're always on the hunt for the next job. And there is a level of excitement for that, I do admit, not knowing, what's down the line, and you only can really forecast so many months ahead.
You enjoyed that?
I enjoyed that for a while. It was really exciting. Like, it was really, really exciting in regards to, like, you're always like, who can I get on the phone with? Like, what relationships do I need to shush a little bit? What things do I need to do to make the next job happen? It was always exciting, right? And like the jobs are always so different,
I hated that part of it. I hated feast and famine. Each month starting at zero, not knowing like, all right, cool, I've got to generate more money for this coming month kind of thing. I don't know. I think what makes like some people that say content creation hard and being a content creator is hard and being an influencer is hard and that sort of thing. I mean, you could even say like people that start off a photography business, videography business kind of thing. The people that are complaining about how hard it is probably haven't like set it up correctly either. Like to what you said earlier about like finding things to delegate, right? Like we know a ton of struggling marketers and videographers and photographers that are kind of in that position because they only want to do things themselves. They get worried about charging certain amounts. They give in to so many like requests and things from clients. Like a lot of seemingly small things that add up to you working stupid hours for fuck all pay.
Yeah.
So I just think a lot of people need to like own the thing of like not just I chose to start a business, but the way that I have set up my business. Yeah, because there's people that we know that will say things like, "This is just the way it is." Oh, this is the way the industry is at the moment. This is like what's happening at the moment. It's kind of like
I thought you were going to start referring to handyman tools. I thought you were.
don't. No, I just people that like I've spoken to some. I find it like off-putting when I'm speaking to someone that says like this is just the way the market is, or this is how people are nowadays, and all these things is kind of like a few experiences I've had recently from their efforts. You know, the people that they're targeting through their marketing, and the people they're choosing to talk to, the offers that they've created that are attracting the wrong kind of people, and they're kind of making these mass generalizations of like, oh, no one wants to pay for this anymore. No one wants to do this anymore. And it's like, well, that's weird because I know people that are. So what do you mean?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
I 100% know what you mean because we're a testament to that at the minute. The economy at the time of this recording is crap, right? It's pretty shit. And I know a lot of friends in the creative industry that are struggling. I've had businesses, my mate's business closed about a month ago. Very successful business. Their content is incredible.
Mm-hmm.
But it closed.
How come?
It just, the structure of it and the way, it's exactly what you're saying. The structure of it and the things that weren't willing to be let go of.
So it was like one of those ones where they do great work, but commercially not viable.
No.
That sort of thing?
Commercially not viable. And it's sad to see. But for us, we just have a different look on the model. So, and we've grown. We've doubled on month, for the last 2-3 months.
Hmm.
So you can't say there's no one out there willing to pay.
No, there's definitely people willing to pay. I think you've got to. I think that like probably I suppose the underlying topic of what we're talking about here is just people taking a little bit of ownership more so for like the role that like what things that they actually have control over. Like some people will be like, oh, very rigid in like having to make like one thing work. It's like, oh, I only want to do these types of videos or these types of sessions. But yeah, it might not be commercially viable. You know, it might be that like realistically you need to be doing, you know, this personal stuff for consumers as well as the B2B stuff. You know, I don't know, like, and I fully understand where some people like, particularly on the videography, I just feel like I can speak to that a little bit more. But like, yeah, we've got people that are like heavy on the high end production and filming side, and that's what they love doing. But then they also have to do social media as well to, you know, supplement the other side of it, kind of thing. And it's like that's just how it is, unless you can go like really, really hard on this side and build up the bigger budgets and, go hard on that style. But
it's an interesting thing. I think a lot of videographers, a lot of great videographers got a shock when the budget started getting slit. And they were forced. They were forced to think of new ways and adapt. But it's hard for them, right? You're looking through a lens of such quality and such planning, such structure, and team effort, and then trying to approach a small business, and they go, "Well, you need to do that. You are the person coming up with the ideas, planning the ideas out, shooting the ideas, editing the ideas. Oh, and I want you to post them on my page and all this." And the videographers are like, "I'm just a fucking DOP." Or like, I'm just a camera op. So it's hard for them. I do sympathize with those people.
Well, you're only going to get paid what the market's willing to pay you for things, but you get to control the market that you're working for. So I think, I just see a lot of people sort of go like hate on small businesses and hate on like the way that they just want you to do all of this sort of stuff and they can't do this over here. And it's like, well, I don't know, you chose to charge what you chose to charge for those services. So that's kind of like, that's on us.
Yeah.
If you don't want to be doing those things, but you kind of got to, like, charge more. It probably won't feel so bad. Like,
yeah,
I tell you, you won't feel so bad about it if you start charging more for it and you're getting paid a better rate for it. Most of the resentment always comes from people undercharging.
Yeah. I think that's an interesting thing too, like how to structure pricing properly. I mean, I sat down with a creative nearly 12 months ago and we seriously did a deep dive into their pricing. And it was a friend. So I reached out and we did it. By no means is it a service or anything that I do, just someone I cared about. And it was very interesting to look at like, oh yeah, I'm charging $220 an hour for when I go and do an event. Like it's the typical, right?
Yep.
I'm charging, I'm just starting out. What should I charge? $150 an hour. I'm going to be there for 2 hours. It's like, okay. How far is the job? Oh, it's an hour's drive, both, and then round trips, 2 hours. Okay. How long are you going to spend editing it? Oh, I want to really make sure it's done right because like the quality I do in this job is going to make sure I get the next job. Okay. So you're going to spend 4 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours. Cool. Like what softwares have you bought? What computer you got? What are they like? Are you catering in any of this into your job? And then you extrapolate all that out, even without extrapolating or catering in, the gear costs and depreciation on those things. You're like, okay, so you're 2 hours at the job, you're 6 hours in editing, and then you're another 2 hours at travel. So 10 hours divided by $200 an hour or $220 an hour.
Yep.
Very quickly you realize your hourly rate's pretty shit.
Yep.
So it's just simple structuring your pricing in a way where, cool, I'm doing shooting. How long am I spending in travel? What am I charging either per kilometer or per hour to travel to places? What am I spending per hour to edit? What am I spending per hour to plan the job? Am I catering in a time budget for miscellaneous calls and stuff like that? Because I guarantee they're going to do it all anyway, whether you charge for it or not. Like, you will pay the cost.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We've all sort of made those mistakes before when you learn that the hard way, I reckon, is you look at stuff and you kind of really purely look at like, oh, well, it'll take this long to edit it, this long to film it, and you only account for those two things, not, well, yeah, like you said, travel time, processing and uploading the footage afterwards, before and after you edit, depending if you're working with a team. All the calls and communication you've got to do in between. Like, yeah, I mean, the amount of clients I've got that had over the years, that think it's like open market to call you whenever kind of thing. And a lot of stuff can be an email. Like they just don't want to have to write an email. They just want to be able to ring you up whenever kind of thing. So
I think there's
You're
two types of people there, though. Like when you go down that route, there's probably more than two types of people, but like you're either the person that goes, I fucked up. Like I've underquoted this and like there is substantially more work in this, but I made that mistake and I'm going to learn this and I'm going to do it. I've got the time to do it. I'm going to learn that mistake and I won't make that mistake again.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like a save face with the client sort of thing, cop the loss, make like really have the learning. Or there's the type of person that's like, they've realized they've fucked up and now they're like backtracking and they're going, nah, I'm going to go to the client and renegotiate. And I'm just going to restructure the whole deal after the fact. I'm not saying either or is wrong, and probably my tonality makes it sound like it is. But like, for me, I've always chosen the side of like, I accept a loss. My good learning. I've done this multiple times. And tell you what, you don't make the mistake again.
Yeah, I lean on that side as well, unless the client's brought something else in that's like clearly out of the scope.
Yeah.
But I think I agree. I mean, at the end of the day, every sales is a relationship that you're trying to manage, really. So you gone just focusing on trying to make more money on that thing. I think that unless you're going to be like way, way off and like be down thousands or tens of thousands or something like that. But typically if you're copping it, it more so means that you're going to be like, maybe you're out a few $100. You know, you should have had, hopefully you've created enough of a buffer with your margins that you're not going to be out. You haven't underquoted that much. I don't think I've ever gone that bad. I don't know, maybe you have a story to that or not. I'm not sure. But yeah, I think you chose to quote that. If you had have quoted it differently, they might not have chosen to go with you. So that's where I think it's like unfair to the client to come back and say, hey, I misquoted it. It's over here. And then they go like, well, I wouldn't have even done, like, we're kind of locked in now and you've just like doubled the price on me. What, like, how does that happen? I just think it's such a bad.
It's a bad spot to be in. And that's why I'm still in two minds. I know we've spoken about this, but I'm two minds about value-based pricing and like itemized line pricing. Because the beauty of itemized line pricing is you can say, it's going to cost $15,000 for us to do that, or it's going to cost $18,000 for us to capture this conference. And they can turn around and go, tell me how it comes to that. And you can go, look, I'm not going to break down X, Y, Z to how it gets there, but here's all the different components, right? And you can also put a variance in there. You go, I'm going to put a margin on the, the post-production. I'm going to over allocate hours. Instead of, 30 hours for the edit, I'm going to put 40. And if we only use 30 hours, I'll give you that portion back. And that's variance in the quote. So you've still got your margins on things because you know what you're paying yourselves. If you're a solo operator or if you're a company, you know what you're paying the employee or the editor to do the job, and you've got your margins on top of them. So whether they spend 30 hours doing it, whether they spend 40 hours, you're still going to make the margin. So there's beauty in that sort of stuff too, and having variances in your quotes. You just pre-agree. Look, there is going to be a 30%, or there's going to be a 10-hour variance in the post-production or the edit. The rest is all fixed. But with value-based pricing, it becomes very hard to do that.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Because I think though with value-based pricing as well, you've got to be willing to come to the table with like guarantees and stuff like that. Like you're getting paid. Value-based, it's only value-based if you're kind of guaranteeing an outcome. Like if you come in and going like, I am certain we're going to hit this because of all this other evidence. And if we don't, then, this will happen. So I just think you got to like that's why I've always leaned more towards like the itemized side of things. So I just think it makes a lot of sense. And I think unless I can take over more variables for such a subjective thing initially, like the amount of times like you could send a video to a client and their opinion is different to how it actually performs on social media.
Mm.
And it's like, we know what we think will do better. So that's where it's like, there's such a disconnect there of like, how do you gauge value of someone going?
That's the thing with value-based pricing. The argument is like, okay, I do a brand video for Small Business Joey, and Small Business Joey wants the full 9 yards, interview, storytelling, multiple locations, really blow it out of the park, make it feel like a movie trailer, right? A and Z come to you and want a brand video, they want multiple locations, they want interviews, and they want it to feel like a movie trailer. Do you charge A and Z and Joey the same price? Because the value that you provide to Joey, sure, right, is going to give him a masterpiece to be able to tell his brand story in a very quick, coherent manner. But for A and Z, like, it's going to be able to use as a marketing tool and there you go, using my word that I love, using it as an advertising tool, so they can either use it in a campaign and increase sales and increase brand awareness that's going to affect their bottom line that's worth millions, right? Do you charge the same price for the same?
The reason I would say no is not, I think, where you maybe we're alluding to, but like,
not to price gouge bigger business or penalize bigger business. It's just,
well, the reason I wouldn't price it the same though is because you would have to do a lot more work for ANZ. The product may look the same, but it's like a wedding is a great example. A lot of people talk about like how much wedding videographers and photographers charge, but there's so much that goes into making sure that you get it right the first time. So,
your only time.
Yeah, exactly. So, whereas I think with small business Joey, if something goes wrong, you need to refilm some things, you need to re-edit, you can likely come back to that. But like if ANZ have got like a specific campaign they want to run, and they've got a TV spot, they can't just like, I don't know. I imagine even if you could go and change that TV spot, it's probably going to be very expensive to do that.
It's very expensive.
Yeah. So I think part of what I don't know if you can compare the two there, because I think I know what you're saying. Like the video might look the same, but yeah, there's so much extra work on this side to provide the speed and certainty that what they get is guaranteed to be the final thing. Whereas what you would do for Small Business Joey you wouldn't think, all right, we need to have almost like a backup videographer at this shoot to be able to grab this stuff. We're going to shoot extra stuff just in case. Like, it would almost be different on the itemized list as well.
Yeah. That's good. I just posed the question because to me, that's what value-based pricing is more so valuing it against what it's worth to the person.
I look at it slightly differently. I know what you're saying, like, I think I totally get it where it's kind of like, well, this is what its value really should be to you. But I also think that I would think if that's the value you bring, then really you wouldn't even be in a conversation with Small Business Joey, because that's the value you bring. That's the price you charge. So that's the standard now, rather than I change the value based on the client.
Mm.
Do you get me? You might just, did that make sense? I'm not sure if I made sense.
That makes sense. But
because I think if that's a value, if that's what you bring, then that's the standard of jobs that you do. I don't know. I don't like this, like charging this and then charging someone else something else for the same product and the same amount of work and all that sort of thing.
I agree. I'm just saying, to me, that's my understanding of value-based pricing. I mean, for us, we're still itemized. But it's, what is the value of it worth to that other person? Because sometimes you never find that. You never find that out. You never find that out in the early days to be able to quote it properly, right? They come to you and they go, I want an ad. Cool. What do you want the ad for? We haven't, it's going to be used in a couple of different assets, couple of different campaigns. We can't give you the specifics. We know it's going to be this. We want multiple locations. We want this, right? And then it's only down the line when they start crunching you on deadlines going, we need this on TV. We need this on, it's being launched on an ad campaign, XYZ, to marry up with the TV thing. And you're like, that's why there is that value-based pricing to go, I know there's going to be more in this than what's probably initially led on. So I know it's worth this much to that person, so I'll charge adequately because it sort of definitely covers what it's worth from an itemized perspective, but it also covers all the other stuff that's probably going to come along with it.
So I almost still look at that as like itemized. You're just accounting for a buffer that you're putting in. I kind of look at value-based pricing and to be more so just out of this conversation is like making me think this I didn't have a definition, I think, fully before this. I look at it, if we just look at consulting, right? And I go, my hour is worth $1,000 or $10,000 or $100,000, right? If I said my hour was worth $100,000 to a lot of people, that would be like, how can you charge $100,000? Like, well, that's for the people that I work with, that's the value that I bring in from my experience and all the other stuff. So I think, to me, value-based is like bringing up based on your, like what you see as like allowing you to increase your price, not me being like, well, I can charge $100,000 an hour to this guy, but I'll go $10,000 or $1,000 to this person. It would just mean I wouldn't work with those people because I'd be like, no, this is what it is, kind of thing. And just it's more so a thing of like just pumping up like marketing in general and like brand. I think if you do your marketing and build up a good brand reputation, that allows you to be able to do value-based pricing because you can go, well, actually we're full up on what we're doing if rather than our costs aren't getting any higher, I'm just going to now make it a 10x multiple on what we're doing here because we can. We're good enough. People are willing to pay us.
Yeah. And
that's where I see the value-based side. It's not like if someone was to go, how did you get to that price for filming? You don't have to explain like you don't
have to see anything there.
You don't have to explain why. Oh, well, technically, let's just say you booked out Hugh for a job. You don't have to explain what like you're paying Hugh because there may be in amongst a few other things and the prep that you give him and brand of the business, the certainty and the gear that you're giving him and all that sort of stuff. You can go, well, yeah, I'm going to charge, $1,500 an hour for Hugh because that's what Hugh's worth within our business. That's like the value that we bring as a business kind of thing. I don't know. That's how I view it.
It's interesting. Pricing is such an interesting one I could talk about for hours because there are so many nuances to it. And I think you need to learn the basics of more than just there is your time on site worth of things. But then it really starts to grow into more and more and more. And some industries, people still rock itemized pricing. I've seen this. but some industries have different percentage multipliers on top. So if it's like a medical industry, they'll go, I charge 30% more. Like I do all my quotes, but then everything gets a 30% increase because I know that that's what it's worth to that industry. So there's so many nuances to it, and at the end of the day, people will pay you if they think it's worth it.
Agreed. Here's my thing. The one thing I reckon just gets smaller, like businesses in trouble, freelancers and everything. If I paid you $1,000 for a job for 2 hours of work, that's all I needed, and then I speak to someone else and they're like, "Oh yeah, it was like 200. It was only like $250 for 2 hours." I'd be like, "Why the fuck did I pay?" So I think like that's where like that disconnect kinda.
I can hear that, but there's too much that goes into that example. There's like, what was your experience with the $1,000 person? Like, was it from the get go? Was there amazing attitude from the get go? Great planning. You rocked up. You didn't have to ask any questions. But the $200 person, one, you never went through it, so you didn't know. But did they come prepared? Did they have everything? Was it smooth sailings? Every question you threw their way, could they answer it, or did they need to research it? So, like, what level of experience and like was there?
No, I'm saying same person. Same person did both jobs, but I was the client that paid 1,000. I talked to this client who only paid $250 for the same person, same work.
Yeah.
I'd be like, why the fuck did I get? That's my thing. I just think like you can't if you can't justify it in that way. I think eventually
sometimes you just need to stand by it though. Like I've seen people that stick by their value-based pricing, and in that scenario, they will just go, "Oh well, that's a bigger business. It's worth more to them. You are the size you are, and they are the size they are," and that is their justification for it. And it's just more so with a bigger business, there comes bigger risk, more stress, and there's more people to deal with. You are a 2 to 3 operator, so there is not as much involved in it. Whereas they have XYZ and XYZ, there's more involved. Costs more. And I've seen people stand by it like that, and it's very just simple, but it's also very true.
Look, don't get me wrong. There's definitely more work involved with like different job. All right, let's say in this example though, like both of the clients are like relatively the same size. I think that's
but then it'd be worth it. It's value, like in my mind.
How do you really get to decide the value of that? Like,
okay, so in the case of like a mortgage broking firm, right? Because I love my mortgage brokers. It could be like, okay, we're going to do a massive campaign push, and we're going to create either 10 assets or 10 videos that's worth, that its goal is to increase our sales numbers from, 100 loans a month to 150 loans a month. Mm-hmm. And you go, great. Like that's a successful outcome for the campaign, right? Businesses same size. And we know that the average, commission on a loan is worth $3,000. So if they were able to increase, 50 more of those a month, very quickly we can see what it's worth. Our efforts are worth, right? We can see what our 10 assets are worth, where you might go, oh, I can shoot those 10 videos in half a day, and processing or editing those 10 take me 4 hours per video, 3 hours per video. Cool. Itemized pricing. You go that way. Nothing wrong with that. But you can also go, what's the outcome worth to them? It's worth, I don't know what the math I was doing before. Let's say it's worth $60,000 to them. So you go a month, right? You go, I can get away with charging 20.
So here's the part though, how do you get to the
20?
60? Yeah. Wait, no, how do you get to the 60?
Yeah.
And how do you get to 20?
So the current their current let's say that they've got 100 leads coming through, $3,000 each, right? And you're going to increase their leads, or the idea of the assets that you're creating in their campaign will be worth to them 50 more leads at $3,000 each. And then you can do, 50 times 3,000, get you the number, which quick math is...
What, 50 times 3,000? 150,000.
Yeah. So then 150,000. And then you can go, okay, I'm not going to charge that for just the outcome, but you might charge a third of that. Or you might charge half of that. It depends on the situation, but in our scenario they're ideally, in the scenario of the campaign going well, increasing their generation. They're increasing what they're generating from $300,000 a month to $450,000 a month. So you can see what it's worth to them.
Okay.
That's one way I've seen value-based pricing done. And they go, all right, I'm not going to charge the full amount, but I now know it's worth that much. I'm going to charge 20% of what it's worth.
Cool. So this is just like me playing devil's advocate on this, because I see a lot of people like promoting this in like courses and like other things, right? My thing would be there's more to that than just the value being brought in. There's, well, one as well, how like are you actually, when you calculate the value, how much of that value actually going like is like, if you just base off revenue, like, and you don't really know what that business's margins are like on the back end and the cost involved with all of those things.
Yeah.
And also taking into account ad spend on top of, your part in that process as well. And if you're doing this part, there's a few other things there just in the act of bringing that person on that I think needs to be, you have to take into account.
Well, that's the nuances. Like you need to know, like I know in the broker industry, they're willing to pay certain professions up to 30% just to acquire a lead. If they have a good referral partner, they'll pay up to 30% to go, yep, give me that loan, because it's worth that much. The margins are that lucrative, especially depending on the profession that is the referral source. Usually it comes with a lot of information, which makes the loan much easier. So like, yes, you need to know what their margins are, but you also need to know we all know what an average finder's fee is. It's 10%, right? So you can pretty much gauge most of the time, if you're doing value-based pricing, that it's going to be around that 10 or 8% mark up to that 20 to 30% mark. But again, you need to know what are they willing to pay in a referral fee? Because ultimately that's what you're doing. You're creating an asset to be able to generate a lot of referrals.
Yeah, I completely agree. I just wanted to point that part out because I don't think people do that often. And they go straight to trying to charge really high ticket. I've seen that happen a lot in the coaching industry, and there's a lot of people that were kind of like, well, the industry got a really bad rap for a while because there was a lot of people all doing that thing, because it was very much, this coach passed down to this coach, and that was just getting passed down to all the coaches selling coaches.
Yep.
So I think that there's that thing, actually understanding what the value is. But there's also the thing of like, well, what is that actually the value that you're bringing in, and the certainty that what's the certainty that you're like, because part of value is not just the promise of the thing, right? It's also the speed and certainty at which people will get that thing, and the level of risk that they're like taking on, like, to get that thing as well. So like, how you're like, are you going to like have some skin in the game with that like, if you're going to do, that's where I think that value-based pricing is kind of like if I was to say to someone like, yeah, I'm worth this, and this is the other thing of like, particularly if we're not in a monopoly, they're going to be looking at
Other options.
other options. How are you going to justify a price that's a lot more on value based when someone else is going and charging itemized and it might be less, right? You can say all you want, like I'm better quality and I'm all this sort of stuff. But I think unless you have that proof, you could have a shit ton of proof and not have to put enough, like much skin in the game. But for a lot of people, I feel like they kind of have to be able to do a little bit of both there. It's like, hey, like I'm going to be more, but if we don't hit this and don't hit these milestones, I might end up being the same or less. So I don't know. I think that's important with like value-based pricing because, like, I don't know if I just put I think it's the thing that more creators need to do: put ourselves in the shoes of the client, and genuinely go like, well, if I was going to be purchasing of this person, what questions would I be asking? What things would I want?
Yeah.
Because I've been pitched some things before, and they'll be like, "Yeah, that's gonna be like $10,000," and they like, or even some stuff that's like $400 a month. But I'm like, cool. So like, what are we actually doing for 400? Like, what's actually being done in there? Like, oh, we just need to do like these things. And it's like, cool. If I don't understand what I'm getting, and what, like, if you can't communicate that value to me and why you're the best person for that, then why should you be able to charge that?
Yeah.
Just devil's advocate.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. As I said, the nuances to pricing is not a never ending game, but it's a big learning curve. And this is all the hats, right? And it comes back to what I was speaking about at the start. There is more to it than just making the content and being the creator.
Yep.
And these are all the hats that you have, all the hats you have to wear. Like, perfect example, you and I have just talked about this for 45 minutes and haven't even really come up with an outcome, right? So imagine trying to do that as a creator for your pricing. Well, the brands come to you and said, we'll send you the product, but we're not going to pay you. The content that you make, you can't use it on your page, but we can use it as an asset. Or like licensing your face and licensing the use for a certain amount of period. Like, there's all these things with being a creator that are challenging, but as you said, there are benefits to being in the industry.
Oh, absolutely. And I don't think there's a be all end all like solution to any of this. I almost think it's kind of like stages. Like, I think value comes with experience, right? So as you grow and you become better at what you do and improve your service, you can increase the value.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, people just need to know that I suppose there can be more to it if you want it to be than what most people lead on. But there also can be very simple.
What do you mean by that?
Well, there can be more to it than what there is than most people lead on to be. Meaning, if you want to be this grandiose creator, living these awesome lifestyles and working in these big productions, I guarantee you're going to have more demanding timelines sometimes, fast turnarounds, and sometimes more stress. And some days it may mean you work ridiculously hard. But it doesn't have to be that way, like you're saying. You can make it a lot simpler on yourself and not work as hard. As we said, you can make it what you want to make it, but just be careful and know what you want to make so you don't make yourself a prison.
Oh,
because I've been there. I've made myself some velvet prisons all the time, and they're very hard to break free from. Yeah.
I know some creators that are earning 6 figures a month, but there's no sellable asset with the business. There's not really a pathway for anyone else to kind of like deliver for them or be like doing the marketing kind of thing. I know that they're delegating a few things, but like,
their only way up is out, like outward in volume. and and less touch points
Yeah. Well,
or a higher price.
yeah,
It only
exactly.
gets you to a point.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's a lot of people who are going into. I saw this a lot in like the consulting side of things. Like you can make a really good income and get charged a really, really good hourly rate, but at what point does that stop? And if you're not working, you're not getting paid either.
Yeah,
unless you create a consulting firm, but then you kind of, I don't know, you got to sort of, I feel like now particularly people can go direct to certain people. Like why would someone work as a valuable consultant for you if
they could do it on their own?
Yeah. They would do a lot less work and get paid a way better rate. Like I feel like consulting would be a hard one to actually create I know there are consulting firms out there, but just nowadays, I'm not sure if that would even be something you could really do. But to your point about creating a prison, creating the business you want, right? You might say like, well, I actually just want to earn a really good income. I've got no interest in trying to build a business to sell or to have the business a business operates without me. I just want to keep doing this one thing, get paid well for it.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that, but know that that's what you're doing.
Yeah.
Be intentional about it.
Be very intentional. And just too many people try and go, how much money do I want to make? And then what lifestyle can I live when I get that sort of money? But just like pick the lifestyle that you want to live and just basically figure out how many clients you need to support that lifestyle. I know that sounds like the same thing, but it's not.
For someone that didn't get it, how would you?
It's thinking it in the frame of like, what's my ideal life look like, rather than what is the ideal income that's going to support the life I want. So it's like, what's the ideal life?
Yeah, I know what you mean. Because I suppose for a lot of people as well, they would have, if you asked anyone how much money they want to make, say, as much money as I can make. You know, I want to be a billionaire.
But what are you going to do with all the money?
Yeah, and like, what do you like? If you wanted to be a billionaire, right? What would you truly have to sacrifice to make that? Not that I don't know how many viewers are genuinely interested in being a billionaire, but like, I don't know. I like when I was 18, I thought about that. Sounds silly how grandiose that is, but like, I don't know. I was kind of like, oh, I just want to I want to do something big. Like, I want to make a ton of money. And now I think once you get into business, you get a little bit of experience. You do get to go like, fuck. Like there's almost like a level where I think like you can make a really good amount of money and still have a life, or still create a life where you get to do.
But that's the whole thing, right? It's like, what do you actually want to do?
Yeah, I mean, if you're Elon Musk, you just want to fucking work 60 hours a week.
Like, what do you want to do? For Elon, like, it's less about the money, and it's like, I want to put people on Mars. So that takes a substantial amount of resource.
Yep.
Right? It takes a substantial amount of expertise, engineers, property. You know, it takes a lot. But for people at our level, it's like, okay, what life do you want to fucking live? You want to go on a few holidays? You want to travel 3 months of the year? You know, you want to not be able to think about, you know, you want to be able to travel within reason, not 5-star hotels all the time, but you want to be able to, you know, you want to be able to go away and be stress-free and then come back and, you know, work hard and then go away again.
Yeah.
Like, figure that shit out. Figure out what it all costs. And like, you can start working towards that life. You don't need to go, because the thing is, if you get trapped in the income climbing phase, is there's always another bracket. I know, I've recently been going through this. It's like, oh, I want to hit this KPI and this goal. Oh, we hit it. Now I want to hit this one.
Mm-hmm.
Because naturally, like the more and more you step up, and there's some businesses that don't require it, like consulting and stuff like that. But the more and more you scale, the more and more cost there is.
Yeah.
So every jump, you go, fuck, there's another jump, and I want to get there. Because that's the nature of the game.
Mm.
But if you lead with it more of like a life is fantastic at the moment, sure, more may mean more things, but it doesn't have to mean more happiness. It's not to say don't do it, but it's just to say like you're not doing it for the sake of more because that's going to make you happier.
Yeah, I know it's a tough line to walk across as well, because it's kind of like in business, if you're not growing, you're dying.
Yep.
Like you can't.
Yeah.
No matter. I suppose this is, no matter what, your cost will go up.
Yeah.
Whether you choose to grow or not. So like,
and don't mistake this for. I'm sorry to cut you off, but like don't mistake this for me saying don't push and don't grow. I'm just saying
no,
be content.
and be intentional, right? Like, yeah, don't grow for the sake of growth. Understand, like, I want to get to this stage, but yeah, I want to do it for this reason, and this is how we're going to do it. There's a guy that went, I think he had like a software business, and he started a consultancy. The guy, James Kemp, I was listening to a podcast where he was saying that the new business he created, the consulting business, was purely around like, he started it with the intention of like, these are constraints I'm putting in. So it's like, as long as like, it was almost like this business can grow as big as it can get, as long as I still only have to work 20 hours a week with this amount of clients on one-to-one, this amount of clients that I work with in a group basis. And I only want to have a team of less than 5, and I want them to all be contractors. That was pretty similar to what he kind of said were his constraints. I found that interesting because I think that is you going, what is the life that I want, right? Like, I only want to work 20 hours because I want to have the rest of the week to do, hobbies, spend time with family, whatever. I don't have a big team because with big team comes a lot more headaches. So I just want to have it like this. And I want to have a really clean way to like exit that person out if I don't want to work with them or whatever.
Yeah.
Already made a bunch of money beforehand. So like, I think he's not too stressed about needing a sellable asset or whatever. Yeah, I think that's a cool thought process to have in mind as well. Like, cool. I want to, maybe your one thing is like, I want to finish work at 5:00 every night. I want to come home. I don't want to think about work. I think that's a cool constraint to have.
Yeah.
You get to have that with your business. Like, cool, I want to grow, but I don't want to grow at the expense of more time from me. So what does that mean? I either need to have to increase my prices dramatically, or I have to bring in more teams, increase capacity to bring on more people.
Yeah. But I think what's interesting though with this is like, you need to be careful, if that's the case in that line of thinking, right? You need to be careful who you listen to because there's a lot of noise out there. It's not just noise. It's really good value. But in the like the buy back your time machine, right? That line of thinking doesn't work because it's all based around buying back more of your time so you can do more things for growth. So in that model, or at least you can do the things you want to do. So if you only want to work 20 hours a week, sure, but have something to do during the week. Don't just wake up every morning and be like, it's fucking boring. This sucks. Like, have something to do.
I agree with you wholeheartedly because I've done that before as well. Like being at the stage of business where it's like you're making a decent income. It's nothing crazy, but you also, I think there was a stage like 2 years ago where I was able to like, go golfing midweek and on the weekend, and I thought that was the best. Like that was a lot of fun, but wasn't really hitting like the growth goals within the business I wanted to be hitting. At least I was doing something, but I had the time to also almost be working 4 days a week,
Yeah.
kind of thing. Where I don't think I hadn't earned that yet. Anyway, that's all I think. But do you think part of that is also like some people need to do certain things like that to figure that out?
I think you have to. Like you've got to go through those lessons. Because for me anyway, I've got to go through those lessons. I definitely learn from other people, don't get me wrong. But some things you just need to learn. Otherwise you don't value the true meaning of it, or you're looking at it from a place of fear of what does the opposite of the outcome look like, So you're looking at it at a place of like, oh, I never want to be in that position.
It's like if you've ever worked for a bad boss,
exactly
what kind it helps you be the boss you want to be. You're like, I never want to be that.
To your example earlier in the episode, right? Most people don't know what hard work is. I've worked hard work. I worked as a civil labourer. I was shoveling dirt. Machines were digging things out, big loads of dirt, and I was getting the parts out that the machine couldn't get with a fucking shovel. In the rain, in the hot, in all the conditions. It's hard work. It sucked. I'm very thankful for what I do today. I'm thankful I can sit here, have a conversation, and this goes towards the brand. It goes towards, it goes towards the social efforts. It goes towards feeding the machine. What do you want to do? Pick your pathway.
I think it's probably a good place to end there, I reckon. Like and subscribe.
10-4.